Hello and welcome to Crimes, Lies, and Alibis. My name is Nicole and I'm glad that you could join me. This content is for educational purposes, seeking justice for victims, and is intended for adults only. Your discretion is advised, so please proceed with caution, knowing that I will be discussing some very sensitive topics, especially in this video. So please like this video and subscribe. Let's kind of tuck right in. This is a hard one. I want to try and get through it without getting too discombobulated because there's a lot of images that I need to show and I'm not quite sure they're all in order. So kind of bear with me. I'm still very green at this. So Neziah Harris, 13 years old, was living in Detroit, Michigan with her adopted mother, Annette Harris, who was also her biological grandmother. Neziah also lived with her Aunt Shannon and 5 cousins fathered by Jarvis Butts, who I will refer to as JB most of the time. Really don't like using the names of the accused, because again, here people are innocent until they are proven guilty, even if we don't really like them. So on January 9th, 2024, Neziah went to school as normal. She was wearing her clear framed glasses, colorful Nickelodeon puffy jacket, black hoodie-type jacket, Nike sneakers, and her hair was in 2 braided puffballs placed on both sides of her head. On the same day, Neziah took a photo using the tablet that was supplied to her by the Detroit Public School District DPS. She seemed happy and was smiling, and that image you see right there. This is also the lovely Neziah. I try and give credit to people when I find images that they have posted. So this image came from Fresh the Clownness out of Detroit. On the same day, however, it will later come out that she had wanted to speak to a school counselor, but none were available to talk to her. So she left the school without speaking to anyone about what was bothering her. It was also discovered that Neziah was part of an after-school program with her cousins, but had recently stopped going. We aren't told why she discontinued the program, but it wasn't until later in the evening that her whereabouts were called into question. After school, Neziah sent a text message to JB, whom he had referred to her as his niece when he was talking about her to others. She let him know that she was out of school, it was cold, and she was going to walk to his auto repair shop, but he ended up picking her up in his white Escalade. With JB was his business partner, Cordell Wright, who is also referred to as King. During the preliminary hearing, Cordell testified that he and JB had gone to AutoZone to get a part. After picking up Neziah, they took her back to the auto shop to work on a Jaguar that belonged to Cordell's son's grandmother. Cordell further testified that Neziah hung out in the Escalade while they worked. Since it was cold, they had to stop for a few minutes to push the vehicle to the gas station in the same parking lot because it ran out of gas from her sitting in it for so long. Once the Jaguar was finished, Cordell messaged his former girlfriend asking what her plan was to get the Jaguar back to her mother. She said that she was planning on having it towed. Cordell told her that it would be a waste of money and he would ask JB if they could drive it to her home in Ypsilanti, Michigan. So Cordell, JB, and Neziah drove the Jaguar to Ypsilanti, Cordell driving the Jaguar alone, while JB and Neziah were in JB's Escalade. After spending about 40 minutes or so in Ypsilanti, Cordell stated that he needed to get back to Detroit before 9:30, so they left around 8 o'clock, getting back to Detroit and going their separate ways around 8:30. Cordell testified that JB did not come to work the next day. Nope, wrong person. Before taking the Jaguar back to Ypsilanti, JB's sister, Tijuana Butts, testified that she was waiting at the auto repair shop for JB to look at her car. She testified that she had gotten there about 4 o'clock and was waiting until he could get to her after taking care of his other customers. Tijuana testified that she seen what she described as a little girl in a bright multicolored jacket who kept getting in and out of her brother's vehicle. At one point, she needed to use the restroom, and she being Tijuana, and the gas station, and was walking behind the girl but never spoke to her. She did not learn who the girl was until about a month later. When Tijuana asked JB who the little girl was, he told her that Naziah was Cordell's niece. But when Tijuana spoke to Cordell after Naziah disappeared, he confirmed that Naziah wasn't his niece, but JB's niece was Shannon. Tijuana didn't even know that JB had fathered more than 8 children of his own. She was not aware that her own brother fathered at minimum 13 children. I just want to take a minute to appreciate Tijuana, because she was getting very emotional during her testimony. They had to leave the room. It's a very small courtroom for preliminary trials. I doubt the actual trial. I mean, it could take place in that room, but I'm not sure. So when they had sidebar, they actually left the room and came back in. And so she's sitting there at that, on the stand or in that chair, staring at her brother. Like, when the defense attorney was asking questions about their relationship, she's like, he's my brother. You know, you would hope that your brother wouldn't be capable of the crimes that we're about to talk about. And yet here we are. You realize he has double almost the children that you thought he did. You realize that he's been doing horrendous things. He's responsible for a little girl going missing. Like, do I even know you? You have to ask yourself, if you were in her position, do I even know you? Are you who I grew up with? Who I helped take care of? I cut food up for you when you were little, because I believe she's the older sister. Like, crushing, absolutely crushing. And I believe they have one brother who's deceased, and there might be another brother that is still around. But she's slowly losing her siblings. And then to find out one is an absolute monster, I feel so badly for her. But I appreciate her willingness to do what's right, despite how hard this must be. So a hotel receipt and phone location services painted the picture that something sinister must have occurred the night of January 9th, the beginning of the end of Naziah Harris, who was never seen again. JB had gotten a hotel room that night across the street from the repair shop. He checked into the Park Crest Hotel at 9:30 and did not leave again until 12 p.m. the next day. The hotel address, according to court documents, is 2000 Harper. So I actually have we're going to take a little field trip before I continue. So this is the hotel in question that JB got a room at. And we call motels like this or hotels like this no-tell motel. And the reason we call them no-tell motels, see, it's called the Travel Inn on the sign. But the receipt said Park Crest Hotel. So either the name was changed and it never changed the sign, who knows. But this is the hotel that he got a room in. And apparently he rented rooms from this place a lot, or paid for rooms in this place a lot for shenanigans. And I'm just going to leave it with shenanigans. And the fact that shenanigans has Shannon in it is not accidental. So see, it says the Travel Inn on all of the sign fronts, but that's not the name on the receipt, even though the address is the same. So probably changed owners. And the real reason this is also relevant is because right there, right across the street, you see car wash, which is right here. The Citgo gas station. Let me go to this road. Looking on the road. There it goes. And his janky little auto and oil shop on Connor Street. So again, the front of the building is a car wash, or the side, depending on how you want to look at the building. There's this Citgo gas station, and this is where Cordell and JB had their auto repair shop. So you can see that hotel is right there. Now, according to Tijuana's testimony, she was parked about in this general area, I guess. And the Escalade was about right here by where the dumpster is. So she could see Naziah getting in and out of the vehicle. This was updated this year because you can see it says 2025 Google. So this changed this year. But this is, so the Escalade would have been about right here, and Tijuana was parked right here because at some point she had to move because someone needed to access the bay door and she was kind of blocking the way. So she was about right here, I guess. And the gas station is, of course, right here. So she would have walked past where Naziah was to go to the bathroom. The whereabouts of Naziah have ignited so many questions. At some point between checking in and out of the hotel, Jarvis took the Escalade and dropped it off at his girlfriend Angel's house. Then he went to see Latricia, the mother of one of his children, to borrow her Nissan. Now, take a second to soak that in. So I think this is Latricia. Yes. So he drops off his Escalade with Angel. I don't know why those lines are there. I try to get the best picture of her because I didn't want to take anything unflattering because that's mean. So he goes and he takes his Escalade and drops it off at Angel's house. Then he goes and he borrows a car from Latricia, who has a son with him, and borrows her Nissan. I'll get into that more later. Okay. Because he's a character, I guess, to say the least. So he borrows her Nissan. And now we need Annette, because she now comes into play. That same morning, when Annette was dropping the other children off to school, she reported to the school principal that Naziah never came home the night before. The principal notified the dean, then filed a police report to the Detroit Public School Police Division with Annette. So DPS has their own version of a police department. This department often handles missing students, and they have a very high success rate of finding missing children. Sounds like they have an office inside the schools, and it allows them to build a reputation with the kids that's positive. So if the child needs help or needs assistance, they have someone that's part of law enforcement that's safe to go to. And I don't know why Naziah did not utilize someone that day, but apparently she tried. Sorry. A month later, they made the decision to pass the case on to the Detroit PD. She had just been simply gone for too long, and they were not coming up with any additional leads. I will say, though, that the Detroit Public School Police did a very good job pounding the pavement and getting as far as they could. Like, they did an excellent job. They were credited for doing such a good job and deciding this is about beyond our element. We need some further help with this, and that's why they turned it over to the Detroit PD. The DPS department investigation revealed that Naziah did take the school bus that morning and was dropped off at school. That same day, she waited to talk to a school counselor, but left without being seen. After spending the whole day at school, Naziah did take her bus to Cornwall and got off at the stop. Then she was seen walking by with a home ring camera. Through phone data recovery, it was also discovered that JB had begun sending inappropriate messages to Naziah as early as June of 2022. These explicit messages started out with her asking him to stay out of her room, to him joking about stealing her panties. Like, he tells her that he's at her house. She's not there. She tells him, stay out of my room. And he says, I stole your panties. She was 11. Like, that's disgusting. There are very disturbing messages that I'll put together for another video. But it's important to be sensitive, as Neziah was a minor whose life was stolen from her as early as 11 years old. Because a year later, after he joked about stealing her panties, in June of 2023, he was asking for new photos of her and a video chat request when he wanted to see her body. At one point, she told him that she did not wish to get naked, and he responded to this by denying answering her when she would message him back, to the point where she was essentially begging for a response. So he tells her to do something. She shoots him down because she doesn't want to. And he responds by ghosting her, is essentially what happened. So this type of love bombing behavior is so very confusing, especially to a young girl who might have thought she was in love with a grown man that was abusing her. So this all came to a head in September of 2023, around Neziah's birthday, when she first misses her period. So now she's just turning 13 and she misses her period. So now she's like kind of freaking out a little bit. She told JB that she took a pregnancy test that was negative, but was concerned again when her period still hadn't resumed, and she had a doctor's appointment. He tells her to take another test, but she pleads with him to get her one because she doesn't have any money. Now fast forward towards the end of November, so almost 2 months have passed. Again, according to text records, Neziah informs JB that she needs help. She's struggling in gym class and is worried about failing because of the baby. She expresses that she's afraid to lose him, and so far we are not shown if he responded to her via text, if he spoke to her over video chat, phone call, or in person. According to additional records found on his device, between the 9th of December and the 11th, JB had been researching sites such as Planned Parenthood on how to have an abortion at home. Some of the methods he researched were abortion pills, herbal remedies, and even consuming red antifreeze. Which is like, really, bro? You work around automotive, you worked around cars. You know the warning labels that are on, fluids that you put in a vehicle, and you're expecting someone to be able to ingest it to have an abortion. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? I mean, clearly he doesn't think super rationally, but that's kind of besides the point. JB seemed desperate to rid himself of the new life that was created as the result of his heinous practices at the expense of Neziah. It's not like the dude doesn't have 13 kids. Like, I'm pretty sure by now, even failing several health classes and biology and any other class that he might have taken that might have to do with the human body, pretty sure that you should know by now how to, prevent babies. You dumbass. Anyway, I'm sorry. Shouldn't swear. So fast forward to January the 10th, the day after Neziah did not come home from school, JB was seen at the Rouge River area in Detroit. So she goes missing. He doesn't go into work. He's seen in the area of the Rouge River. Because unlike Stephen Stearns, he kept his phone on him. Imagine that. After canvassing that same area, clothing that Neziah was last seen wearing was found, including a hot pink bodysuit. The only article of clothing that was missing was her colorful Nickelodeon jacket. So now we're going to... Where is she? This sweet lady. Very, very, very smart lady. After walking past a plastic ID laying face down in the grass, Valerie Smith of Detroit found Nazia's school ID. She testified that she walked past this several times over the span of about 2 weeks before she decided to flip it over with the tip of her finger. She immediately recognized Nazia's name from seeing it on TV and her face, so she carefully picked up the ID by the edges with her thumb and index finger. She took it to the gas station and put it on a beverage lid before turning it over to police. She then went back with police. She had to take a bus. And she ended up going back with the police and showing them exactly where she found it in the grass. Back to Latricia. Latricia Jackson testified that her son with JB, the one he borrowed the Nissan from, was playing with clear plastic glasses that he found in her vehicle that JB had borrowed the night before, the night of the 9th. When their son was seen playing with the glasses, JB snatched them from him aggressively, stating that they were his and they were not toys. So then we go to, where is she? We just passed her. Nope, that's Shannon. On February 7th, so nearly a whole month later, on February 7th, 2024, JB turned himself in on a weapons charge. While in jail, he made a phone call to Cordell, asking him to look in his truck for his cell phone that he had left behind. Cordell was unsuccessful at retrieving this device. When vehicles were seized during the police investigation, JB's fiance, and I say that in quotes, I'm sticking with facts here, JB's fiance, Tashiana Davis, testified that she'd taken JB to the courthouse on January 9th. But his hearing had been postponed. I'm pausing there on purpose. I'm going to read that again. Tashiana Davis, his fiance, testified that she'd taken JB to the courthouse on January 9th, but his hearing had been postponed. She had also driven him when he turned himself in at the beginning of February. After law enforcement had seized her vehicle, they found his phone hidden on the passenger side of the vehicle. Tashiana had no clue that it was there because she had testified that he told her he left it at home. Tashiana also testified that while she and JB did not have any children together, they had been together since 2019 and became engaged in 2023. JB did not live with her, but would often stay with her most of the night. She found his behavior suspicious, but when she tried to ask him questions, he would talk himself in circles, and my guys and gals and whoever's listening, that is a red flag. That's a red flag. You have someone coming over to your house and they're staying partial nights. That's weird. And then they have suspicious behavior, and when you start asking them questions, they start talking in circles. Yeah, if they're not being honest with you, that's a red flag. Go with your instincts on this. I'm sure that something in you is saying, hey, probably not a good idea, but all right. When he would leave her house at 2 a.m. every time he stayed, his reasoning was that he needed to take care of things before going to work. He was very secretive and protective of his phone. At one point, she tried to unlock the device by putting it in front of his face while he was sleeping. It did not work. She maintains that she had no idea who Nazia was, but that JB was always good with her children, and she never suspected that he was potentially being inappropriate with them. She'd also allow them to work for him in his shop, and he taught her son how to change oil. That's creepy. Lordy. And this was her ID that Valerie found in the grass. Nazia herself, though, still not been found. Due to all of the available evidence, it has been declared probable cause to move forward with the trial. At this time, Nazia is presumed dead until JB can prove otherwise, or she comes forward. Whether it be her death be accidental or intentional, Her life light being extinguished too soon has left a community grieving. The community of Detroit, Michigan, and those who care about finding justice for Neziah want answers. We want to know and understand why she trusted only him. We may never know why she didn't feel as if she could talk to her mom or her aunts, why she felt she could not talk to her cousins or friends or teachers. Our first instinct is to blame everyone involved. Someone had to know things purposefully ignored. Maybe their ignorance wasn't intentional or what I would consider willful ignorance. We tell ourselves if we can't see things happening, hear them, or know they exist, then we are personally absolved. But this isn't true. But so far, no one else is facing charges. Police and investigators have directed all of their blame on JB and JB alone. While I have so many questions, I'm going to try to do the same. That said, I'm still side-eyeing some of their choices here, because I'm not absolving everybody that was in Neziah's life. I do believe that some people need to be held accountable here, because there were lots of failures. I'm questioning Annette. Questioning Annette here. Let's go back to Annette. Where are you at, Annette? I'm questioning Annette, deciding for weeks that Neziah had simply run away when that was not remotely in her nature to do so. I'm wondering how she was able to sleep the night of the 9th without wondering where her child was. I am questioning whether or not she would have pressed the issue had she not told the principal why Neziah... I'm questioning, whether or not she would have pressed the issue had she not told the principal why Neziah was not going to be in school that day. Annette has not been very forthcoming with what she knows. Okay, so I'm again trying to not cast speculation, because there's a lot of speculation thrown at family members and things that have been said that's really he said, she said, family arguments, and I don't really want to say banter because people are all really mad at each other. Allegedly, Annette is no stranger to children running away. Allegedly, and I'm saying allegedly because I don't know if there's facts behind this or not, allegedly, Neziah's mother is one who ran away at a very young age, 13, 14, when she left the home. And allegedly, Annette's first son ran away from home very young and became a ward of the state. I don't know if any of that is true. I have not been formally able to dig up any of this. Obviously, minors' names and information would have been protected, but that is allegedly the case. And that might be an explanation for why she thought Neziah had just taken off, because it's happened to her before, allegedly. I'm questioning Shannon and her choosing to have 5 children with a registered offender, wondering whether or not she knew JB's disgusting history of abuse. Did she know that in 2005 Butts was sentenced to 8 years for third-degree sexual assault of a child? And actually, that's not correct. I needed to edit that and I didn't. I'm sorry, because I have that too. The baby was only 4 years old and was given chlamydia by him. Okay, so we have this. Jarvis Butts, black male, black hair, brown eyes, 6'2", 185 pounds. Date of birth, 11/21/1982. This is all public information. You could find this just as easily on DOC, Department of Corrections website. Okay. His scars and tattoos. Supervision begin date 2/7/24. Okay, wait. That was for the weapons charge. Okay, that's when he turned himself in for the weapons charge. This date is only based on the weapons charge, I think. I'm not sure what that is. Sentence, inactive. So these are past sentences. Okay, so criminal sexual conduct, 3rd degree. Minimum sentence, 5 years. Maximum, 15 years. The date of the offense was November 29th, 2004. The date of the sentence was Halloween 2005. His discharge date was 2014. So the 15 years was the maximum sentence. He got out January 4th, 2014. Now, this one was a weapons charge. He got time served because he was already in jail. He must have had a weapon on him that he should not have been carrying when he was arrested in the date of his sentence. The date of sentence, date of offense, he was on a sexual registry or sexual whatever, and he had a weapon on him. Probation sentence, carrying concealed weapon, carrying concealed weapon. This was the weapons charge that he turned himself in on that was delayed on January 9th. The date of that offense was in April 15th, 2023. So this is when he was picked up because of his being a sex offender. He should not have weapons, whether they be registered to him or not. He's not supposed to carry them in the state of Michigan. And that was the date that he was incarcerated because he turned himself in. So we're going to be focusing on this though, because Shannon is not being honest. According to reports, Shannon has known JB since she was 16 years old. She had her first child with him when she was 19. This timeline doesn't make sense. Based on legal court documents, JB didn't get out of prison until 2014, when Shannon was already 21. This means she either knew him before his incarceration, which would have made her about 10 or 11 years old, or she's not honest about her age, but she has a twin, or she met JB while he was in prison and they had conjugal visits, but things are not adding up with her time frame and the dates when he was incarcerated because he was in prison. So either she knew him way younger, which, gee, if she was 10, 11 years old, well, that seems to be his target demographic, does it not? Because that's when he started messing with Naziah and her little cousin. Or, like, she has 5 children with him, and she was already 21 when he got out of prison in 2014. So these numbers aren't adding up. Then we get back to Miss Davis. God. We get to Miss Davis, who does not have any children with JB, but claimed they were engaged. She does have children that she insisted he was good with, but she admitted that she didn't trust him about not having other women in his life. She distrusted him to the extent she tried unlocking his phone while he was sleeping because he was just so secretive. And when she tried to ask him questions, he would circle back and create confusion, which is a pretty basic gaslighting maneuver. This goes for everyone and not just Miss Davis. If you can't trust someone because you think they're being dishonest to the point where you're trying to unlock their phone with their face while they're sleeping, then maybe you're in the wrong relationship. Like, trusting a person with your children but not feeling like they're an honest person is goofy. I mean, it just... it goes back to Jen Soto, and I hate that I keep bringing her up. But it goes back to her, too. Oh, I knew about the sex stuff. I just didn't think he'd do anything evil, like kill her. Oh, okay. So it's good to know that you draw the line at murder, I suppose. I didn't trust him. I thought he was being dishonest with me. I thought he was lying. I thought he was being sketchy. I questioned if there were other women in his life. But every time I asked him questions about literally anything, he would gaslight me. I tried to unlock his phone with his face because he was always really weirdly protective of his phone. He wouldn't even park at my house. He'd park around the corner on another street. But he's good with my kids. I'm just going to leave him unsupervised with my children. Like, insanity. It's goofy. I mean, that said, I'm disappointed in Child Protective Services. There were 17 complaints by family members who had concerns. 17. We're not talking a CPS call. we think we might suspect that abuse is going on. 17 complaints. That's unfathomable. 17 complaints to CPS. And they did nothing. 2 of those family members are known to be Naziah's great aunt Janelle, who is the sister of Annette, and cousin Kiwana. At a birthday party in spring of 2022, Naziah and another one of her young cousins had spoken up about what was happening to them. The unnamed child states that JB touched them inappropriately and that it hurt. Janelle was contacted by Shannon, who told her that CPS was at the house. When Janelle and Kiwana followed up, they were told that the house was clean. Annette, Shannon, and JB were all questioned, but nothing was said to give them any evidence that was needed to remove the children. There was no reason to keep the cases open, so all of the claims were denied. So they go in, they speak with Jarvis, who's being accused of hurting children. They question his girlfriend. I don't even know what they officially were. The mother of his 5 children, who denies it. Oh, there's nothing going on. Nothing to see here. We don't have a ditty basement. And then you have Annette, who is apparently very delusional when it comes to Jarvis. Oh, nope, nothing happening here. Oh, well, you have food in the house and your house is clean, so I guess that suffices. We're not going to pull children in for forensic interviews or anything. We're good. Case closed. 17 times. Disgusting. The children did not speak, whether by instruction or fear. We don't know. Personally feel that they should have been interviewed by forensic therapists who could have spoken with them in a safe, neutral environment that was recorded for review. Again, why this wasn't done, we're not told. There were a whopping 17 reports made, yet nothing was done. Knowing that Butts has a history of essaying minors, spent all that time in prison for essaying a 4-year-old and giving the baby chlamydia, and yet we're gonna interview him and all's fine. He doesn't know what anybody's talking about. Completely innocent. Those kids are lying. Convicted predator, and CPS believed him 17 times. It's gross. Anyway, more facts about JB. During an interrogative interview, let's see, I have a picture of that kind of. There we go. Disgusting, foul human being he is. Monster. JB said he viewed himself as a mentor of sorts. Yeah, a mentor. The children referred to him as an uncle if they were not biologically related to him. You know who else does that? Creepy predators. Yep, creepy predators. This is Uncle Jarvis. Sure. Yeah, that's not abnormal at all. It never happens. He also stated that he'd find things for them to do in exchange for things they wanted. He wasn't giving them things for free. They had to work for it. Weird. That's a real weird way to put things, sir. They had to work for what they want because you were giving nothing away for free. Nice. That's good. So, the Honorable Judge Elias Sabri comments, and she was on it, and I'm a little disappointed because there's no way she's going to be able to be the judge in his actual trial, because she's made her feelings for him quite known after listening to all the evidence. She thinks he's despicable. So I could actually go to that video of what she says to him. And while I'm focusing most of my attention on Naziah for this specific video, I wanted to note about how I learned about her disappearance. I first heard about Maddie Soto's disappearance about 2 weeks before I learned about Naziah's. I had been following other cases that had gone to trial, and a friend asked me if I'd heard about Maddie. When talking about Maddie to another friend, she asked me what I knew about Naziah. And I also learned about Naziah through Strategic Eye, who was talking about her as well. So my friend brought her up, and then I was watching a Strategic Eye video on Madeline, and he brought up Naziah. So I'm like, who is this Naziah that keeps popping up? So thank you also to Strategic Eye for pointing her out to me. When the parallels between the girls are so sadly similar. Both girls were exploited by adults they trusted. Both were groomed to feel their relationship with their abusers were positive despite being unhealthy and beyond inappropriate. Both girls had been victimized before they reached puberty. Naziah was reported missing the morning after she didn't come home from school. Maddie was reported missing when she didn't come home from school. Both were reported missing by their mothers. Both girls were 13 at the time of their disappearances and went missing 48 days apart in the same year, Naziah going missing first. Naziah was pregnant, though not medically confirmed. There is speculation that Maddie might have been pregnant, or that her murderer may have believed she was due to missed and late periods and pregnancy tests being kept in the home, despite not belonging to the other women in the house, and her mother, Jen, couldn't really give a good reason to have pregnancy tests, despite not having sex since December of 2022. Both Naziah and Maddie were living with people who should have seen signs of their abuse, and if they didn't, have a lot of explaining to do. Both male perpetrators were in a sense protected by the other adults, whether it be out of fear or self-preservation, maybe a mixture of the two. In Butts, he was protected after multiple complaints to Child Protective Services indicated that he was essaying several children. Stearns was protected by Jen when she learned of the CSAM and immediately told Stearns' father that he needed a lawyer. Butts and Stearns both have histories of questionable behavior. While Butts has a prior conviction that Stearns does not, people have still observed Stearns with CSAM but never reported him. They knew exploitation was possible but never informed authorities. Unlike Stearns, Butts was reported to Child Protective Services multiple times, though none of those reports were substantiated. Butts had multiple victims at the same time. While we aren't sure who else Stearns has potentially victimized, some of those finer details might not be the same, but it is evident that neither of these men started their abuse abruptly. It was a gradual thing that started small and that has gotten bigger. So far, from what we know, Butts was a little more careful with deleting his CSAM than Stearns, but until all the evidence available is shown in trial, we won't know those details, because Detroit or Michigan is a little bit more close with their evidence than Florida, where Florida is like, you want to see what kind of a dirtball this is? We'll show you. We'll redact some, but we'll give you some pretty fine details for you to scour over. So more about JB. Wait, I already said that. Where did I go? Okay. There are some people on social media who believe JB is innocent and will be freed from his accusations. Listen, the likelihood of this happening is slim to none, unless the prosecution absolutely botches their case on every level, and we're talking like they commit a major Brady violation and the case is dismissed with prejudice. If they pull something that is, questionable whether or not they should have a law license, the likelihood of him getting out of prison is very small. Even if JB is found not guilty on Naziah's disappearance and subsequent death, he's going to get nailed with child essay criminal activity because of the children he essayed and had work at his shop for monetary exchange, something he mostly admitted to. The max for that is 20 years. It's 15 for the years of essaying a child under 13, which is the same charge he had the first time. Realistically, they could separate that for each victim. It could be 15 years for Naziah, 15 for the unnamed minor, and 15 for the other victim who is now the age of 20. Plus, if we know there was more, and it's dependent on whether or not they come forward. But still, if he's found guilty of those elements alone, most of which have physical evidence from his phone, he's looking at 65 years. He's already 42 and will be nearly 43 by the time this goes to trial if it's not delayed. Since he does have a prior history and conviction on the same charge as well as others, the judge could decide that he will serve each charge in their entirety consecutively. So based on the math and calculations, he'll be about 107 years old if he outlives those convictions, which is super unlikely. So more facts about Jarvis. He's 42. He was arrested September 27th, 2024. First degree murder, premeditated, max is life without parole. Child SA commercial activity, max 20 years. Second degree criminal sexual assault, max 15 years. Criminal sexual conduct, second offense. So this is not his first offense. He is a repeat offender. And this goes with my firm belief that while the prison system is intended for rehabilitation, these predators cannot be rehabilitated, especially the ones who victimize minors. I do not believe there is rehabilitation available for them ever. That once they have crossed that bridge, once they have overstepped that line, there's no going back. Because their willingness to stop is gone. There's no unringing that bell. There's no putting the bullet back in the gun. It's done. And the idea of these severe offenders rehabilitating, I don't believe in it. I believe it's next to impossible. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but in my opinion, it's next to impossible. People who offend will likely offend again if given the opportunity. JB, of course, has pled not guilty to all charges. He had a preliminary hearing in January 2025 that lasted for a week. Judge Elias Sabri ruled that there was sufficient evidence to move forward with the trial. Evidence in this case clearly shows that JB was beyond predatory. He was vulturous and groomed Nazaya with expertise that she never could have seen coming. And that came from Judge Sabri. So his next hearing was March 7th. I did watch that as well. So far they are continuing with the plans for having, I think, trial in September. Kind of a recap. Nazaya was 13, living with her adopted mother, Annette Harris, her biological grandmother in Detroit. Her other family member she resided with was her Aunt Sharon, who has 5 children with JB. She was last seen January 9th, 2024, and did not come home from school. She has still not been found. Her clothing was found, and trial is moving forward. I did find... So this is the photo of that pink bodysuit. These were headphones that were found inside of the black jacket. And this was one of her shoes. The shoe was rolled up inside the bodysuit. And the gentleman who found it, I believe his name is Wyatt Barnes, he testified that he was part of a group of people. There was a bunch of different districts of people in law enforcement who were congregating together to try to help find Nazaya. And they were combing areas. And he was by the Rouge River, where Jarvis's phone pinged him the next day. And there is a former golf course, I guess, over there. And there's a clubhouse. The shoe, the bodysuit, and the jacket were found behind that clubhouse in sort of what was a parking lot. And obviously there's brush and everything else that it was surrounded by. So her puffy jacket, this is her on the school bus. She's wearing that jacket. This is also a photo of her wearing that jacket. This was a photo of her Aunt Shannon when she was pregnant. Oh, allegedly Shannon and Nazaya were pregnant at the same time. This person is saying that Shannon admitted to giving her a pregnancy test. So she gave Nazaya a pregnancy test, allegedly. This I found on eBay. That's the jacket. It's funny because some people call it a Rugrats jacket, and Rugrats isn't on there at all. You know, I have C. Hey Arnold characters and Cat Dog, and I can't remember the name of the dog, but there's no Rugrats on this jacket. But this is the jacket that Tijuana Butts saw. she saw this jacket and Isaiah wearing it. But this jacket is the only piece of clothing that has not been found. So it is presumed that wherever Isaiah is, that jacket's with her. She was probably wrapped up in it. Again, Detroit isn't super open, or Michigan, I should say. They aren't super open with what evidence they have, unlike Florida, which is the Sunshine State. They have a sunshine law that has a lot of that evidence available. I could probably look up to see what they have released so far about the trial, but I'm going to guess super fine details and stuff they haven't because of the nature of the crime, and they're going to have a hard time because they have to convince a jury that Isaiah is dead. There's no body. Unlike Maddie Soto, who was found, Isaiah is still missing. She could be anywhere. There's a ton of speculation on where she is, but this is a girl that was very active on social media and has not had anything on social media since January 9th when she went missing. Her birthday came and went in September, and nobody heard from her. So it's safe to say she's gone. Yes, allegedly her mother was a runaway at a young age, and so was what would have been her uncle. Allegedly, Annette has 7 children herself, but the only ones we really see her talking about really isn't even Isaiah's birth mother, but Shannon and her twin sister. So, again, I really didn't want to get into a lot of the family drama because let me tell you, there's a ton of it. People are really showing their butts, and I don't mean Jarvis butts, but they're really keeping it PG-13, even though it's for adult content. I don't want to get in trouble by YouTube, but there's people protecting themselves in this that really need to be held accountable. Well, that's what I was going to do. That's not what I wanted to do. Images. Whoops. My bad. I'm sorry. What the heck? It's gonna give me an ad immediately. No, it's not an ad. I was about to say. So Jarvis butts.
Resistance to the Empire is absurd. We cannot stop them alone.
They give me an ad anyway. Annoying.
If it's war, I want to win.
Go away. Go away. I wanted Judge Sabri. I wanted to find, okay.
The case regarding a trial, and the one thing I had highlighted in pink is the quote, "In this case, there was no physical evidence such as bloodstains or a weapon leading defendant to Joyce's death. In this case, we don't have the same facts or circumstances. I do agree this is a circumstantial case, and circumstantial evidence is sufficient for a bind over and even conviction. Today is January 9th, 2025, exactly 1 year, from the day Isaiah Harris disappeared. Before I get into the charges, and the main charge of premeditated first-degree murder, I have to speak on Isaiah Harris and the community who failed her. And I am only presented with certain evidence. I don't know the whole story. The attorneys know more than me, the family knows more than me, but from what I have heard over the last 4 days and 5 days total, is that several people failed her. I don't know where her mother is. I don't know anything other than that she was forced to live in a home where she was not protected or given the adequate attention and love. I don't know where her father is. I don't have any mention of him in her life, no presence. To Cordell, AKA King, and all the men who saw Jarvis Butts hanging out and always around these young girls, including Isaiah, and his 9-year-old daughter going up to the shop to clean up his shop. The school counselor who never showed up, or the person who was supposed to show up if that counselor was absent, after Naziah was on the floor on the day she went missing, saying that she needed to speak to someone and speak to a counselor. There's no mention of CPS, but I wonder what their involvement was over the years, because this was not just a one-year thing. There are text messages at least from 2022. To her adoptive grandmother, Annette Harris, whose testimony, in my opinion, was very questionable. I understand why the people put her on the stand to establish Naziah's residence and the houses on Bedford and the regular routine, to establish also that Naziah was not a runaway child, that she was not a bad kid. I do believe she adopted Naziah. I do believe that she had 6 kids in the house. I believe that Naziah had on a dark hoodie the day she went missing, and that she had on red and black Nikes that day. What is hard to believe is that the defendant never came into the house as she testified. And there was also a minor that testified that he did as well. Text messages that show between him and Naziah that he did. In the basement, saying he was going to the shower, stealing her panties. He was always lurking around that house and asking for Janiyah and Zaniyah, from what I know. I even thought about the breakfast routine and saying that all the kids like eating breakfast at school. Did they have a choice? I don't know. But to always send those girls up there to clean up the shop raises questions. And how were there 2 women in that house who have birthed children themselves who did not notice that Naziah was pregnant, and I believe she was, and not having her period anymore? But then after hearing text messages today, begging Jarvis for pads as if she didn't have anyone else to give them for her. And what stood out the most was when Annette Harris stood on the stand, and she learned around 6 p.m. that Naziah did not come home from school, and said she looked around for her and decided to wait until the next morning to call the police. Without a tear, without emotion, or any expression of being devastated. And to her Aunt Shannon, who also showed no emotion, expression of being devastated from Naziah going missing. She stated that she had friends help look for Naziah, but was directed to just wait until the morning to call the police. A grown woman who likely suspected something strange going on didn't feel the need to call the police either. They were both able to go to sleep at night without hearing from Naziah or having any indication that she was coming home that night. And of course, the defendant, who I will get to in a minute. I don't know who else failed Naziah, but the community did. As far as the people establishing probable cause, I will focus on count 1, as it's been stated that there is no contention with counts 2 and 3. In count 3, I will amend based off of the motion and the testimony I heard that Naziah was 12 and not 13 at the time that Jarvis Butts had sexual intercourse with her. The prosecution is correct. You do not have to have a body to establish first-degree premeditated murder. It would have been a much shorter exam had her body been found, but this is where we are. In the last 365 days, no text messages. We all heard today and yesterday that she was very active and frequently texted. No social media for a year. We heard through testimony that she was also active on social media. No phone calls, which she was also able to do according to testimony. No physical sighting of her by anyone. She never came back to school. No one has seen her. Medical records dated from July 2014 to October 2023 indicated that she had no life-threatening medical issues that would lead to a natural cause of death. The black hoodie found in the area of 7 Muhlenberg with her DNA and blood on it. The holes in the hoodie consistent with some sort of struggle, violence, or weapon being used. And we know that there were no holes in that hoodie when she wore it to school. We saw a picture of her in a black hoodie on her last day that everyone saw her. I do believe her grandma testified truthfully about the sweatshirt that she had on, and that was practically new, and the border agent, who said that no evidence of animals would have destroyed the clothing or the shoes to possibly lead to animals tearing up that hoodie. The clear glasses found in the blue Nissan the day after she went missing. The behavior of the defendant when he snatched those glasses. They looked exactly like the glasses she had on in her last picture, according to the witness. The shoes that her brother described as the same shoes that were found also in the area of 7 Mile and Bird near the hoodie. While this is still probable cause, the evidence all points to Jarvis Butts. His locations, him being seen with her last, the abortion searches, the abrupt silence between the two of them in text messages, and the constant lies he told throughout the entire investigation. And they were proven to be lies with text messages and other testimony. We may never know what happened, but from what I heard today and over the last 4 or 5 days, it appears he intended to perform what he thought was a do-it-yourself abortion on Isaiah, and it went south, and instead of seeking medical attention for her, he intentionally killed her and tried his best to cover it up. As much as I want her to be alive today, there is at least probable cause to show and believe that she's dead and that she was murdered by Jarvis Butts. Mr. Butts, stand up. You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorneys with your mask on and taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say. I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old, and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you're just the true definition of a pedophile. Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them, and having them in your presence, cleaning up, quote, cleaning up your shop, and the little girls around you, has landed you here today. You groomed Isaiah. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Isaiah deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. As much as defense counsel has raised issues on count 1, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear in Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our Black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered. Your bind over date is January 16th at 9 o'clock a.m.
Sorry. I have such respect for Judge Elia, because you could tell that she was positively seething while she was reading her findings. Seething. And even his defense attorney, she looked really upset, especially at the end. I can't imagine having to defend someone like him. And it looked even difficult for the male. I didn't catch either of their names. I need to go through and watch the whole trial. Maybe I'll watch it with you. But even he looked really affected. Like, this is a hard case because it is his right as part of having a fair trial to have counsel. And they might hate him, but they have a job to do. They have a job nobody wants to do. He's guilty of sin, even if he didn't kill her, which is debatable. And he has his time in court. He has his due process. He has his right to a fair trial. But like she said, at the very least, he is guilty of being a pedophile. He is guilty of causing harm to minors. And being the only person Naziah could count on. And let that sink in. He was the only person she could count on, and he was a monster. So I just feel that she delivered that beautifully. And I'm sad she can't do his trial because she's made it too abundantly clear how she feels about him. But I think that she did an excellent job with her decision. And I have immense respect for her, like big time, because that could not have been easy to say without yelling. I mean, she was calm, but you could just tell she was positively seething. Like if smoke could come out of her ears, I think we would have seen it, because she reprimanded a lot of people in that statement. She reprimanded Annette, who said Jarvis never came in her home, which is ridiculous. She mentioned the basement, which family jokingly referred to as the Diddy basement, which is gross. Shannon covering for him. Shannon and Annette both not knowing that she was pregnant. Called BS on that one. So he does have a trial in the fall. I believe it's slated for November, but that could change because, you know, this is court. It often does. I don't know how much he has. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I don't think Michigan has the death penalty. But I'm going to wrap this up, and I think I'm going to, in the next 2 days, go over the preliminary trial hearing so that I can watch it and give my comments. I've watched most of it already, but I want to watch it from start to finish. So, thank you. Oh, I guess I should probably say please like and subscribe. You know, kind of helps too. But thanks again for sitting with me.